The Knight Destrier. Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the factions, forces, and faces of the grim darkness of the far future. Where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. Alas, I had been working on a larger video, a new installment of Thaddeus and Tarquinius, but time ran away from me, and it is quite a whopper. Hence, it will be out the week after next, for the 500 Worlds campaign continues next week, so do join me then. And today, we shall be discussing the newest reveal from Games Workshop in the form of a new size and style of knight. The Destrier, even though I remember it being pronounced Destrier, but my memory is not what it was. As usual, I will be giving a brief tale to show, not just tell, the importance and action of this new combatant. Lore will follow thereafter. So let's have at it. From the Bold Library, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Knight Scion Marshal Par Gantan was the last. They knew it. He knew it. He had been close on the battlefield when Knight Octella Samarlin had been struck down by his opposite number amongst the enemy, and then all knew it. It was over. House Baldermort had always been small, but strong. Some would say vicious. But house was a strong word these days. Over the millennia since their banners had flown for Horus, they had degenerated, a little at first, then rapidly as the heresy progressed. But by the time the Loyalists broke Legio Mortis on the walls of the Imperial Palace, they were already unrecognizable. Now even Par Gantan had to admit, House Baldermort were nothing more than robber barons, raiders, and rabble who preyed on the weak. When they faced up against true knights, humanity's first and finest defenders, they were torn to shreds. Baldermort had the numbers, had the blessings of the Dark Ones, had fire and fury. Yet still, they were torn to shreds. It was not a battle. It was an exhibition, in what Baldermort had traded for these dark gifts. Honor. The Loyalist knights who stood against them, House Heinrich, they had it. Honor. It bred something into them, a surety that made them move with the swiftness of sunbeams, never holding back. By life or death, they slew their quarry. Oh, House Baldermort had been feared, skilled, had won many engagements. Once upon a time, they were lethality personified. But in all their self-satisfied preening, their stacked dark gifts, they did not see what had been stripped from them. Purpose. The Knights of House Heinrich had this also, burned with its light. They did not yield an inch of ground, not one. And their professionalism and their cool courage was a wonder to see, like a snapshot of history. Close supporting lances of knights working as one, armigers that were fierce and fanatical, yet always in formation, always tight. Even when closed with one-on-one, they were duelists par excellence, flawless. By potence and numbers, House Heinrich should have been crushed this day. But their knights were well kept, something that traitor houses were not nearly as assiduous about. Outnumbered 2-1, their cohesion and elan was unshakable. Heinrich took the field. Par Gantan, like so many around him, when they had finally seen their heroes fall, their greatest war machines destroyed, had turned tail and fled. Unthinkable to him when he fought in the Crusade, unimaginable. But without discipline, without honor, without a cause, the thrill of slaughter had made him forget what truly made him strong. He had lost his honor millennia ago. This was just the last expression or repercussion of that initial fall so long ago. He simply had no reason to stand and die when he could try to survive. A free blade for the Dark Ones is what he told himself. He would become this. It had been done before. If he could just get to the Hidden Lander, if he could just get off-world and offer his services to any who could support him, give him the opportunity to kill and crush. But it was not to be. The column of smoke that rose from his destination eradicated that last hope. The Loyalists had discovered, then destroyed, his one way out. He was still dolefully locked onto that vision when a communication came through to him. "Turn around and meet your doom." The servos squealed on his Questoris as Knight Scion Marshal Pargantan did just that. His Gatling cannon already span, and his Reaper chainsword's teeth tore around their housing, giving off the sound that had taught terror from thousands of his victims. There, before him, was a lance of this House Heinrich. They had not shot him in the back, had not jumped him mob-handed. This last battle was a gift from them. Had the situation been reversed, no warning would have been given. His knight would already be dead, he along with it. Then he sneered. These were not his equals. They were smaller than Questoris, something he had never recalled seeing before. Perhaps Baldermort had considered this chassis beneath them. Perhaps it was something new, as unlikely as that might be. It was not as small as an Armiger, but something in between. And Pargantan sneered now, as he saw 3 of these small knights standing back. Only one of them presented for combat. What insult was this? Pargantan nodded. He was a dead man, he knew it. But at least he would teach these loyalist lapdogs a lesson. He would crush this whelp and then eat at least one more of them before he went down. So he raised his Gatling cannon, and it began. Spraying the area with explosive rounds, the smaller knight was simply not there when they hit. It moved with a speed and agility Pargantan could not believe. He trained his cannon again and spat another volley of metallic hate. But he could not get this smaller knight into arc and keep it there. The knight charged him, nimbly ducking back out of the way as his Reaper chainsword came across at it. But before Pargantan could even conclude his sweep, the Heinrich knight had leapt toward him. Its left arm zipped forward, and a lance-like power weapon shot like a harpoon right where it needed to be. His knight exploded backwards. The knight Destrier stood above his noble kill. Traitor House Baldermort was ended with that last unerring strike. Now, before we continue, if you enjoy this format, then like and subscribe. The Knight Destrier. A brand new weight class of knight. Seeing as it's hot off the press, and these are the only details available, I shall return to form and do this the old-fashioned way. To quote, "A Knight Destrier is a Ballitus pattern knight, prized for its incredible speed and grace, achieved by slimming down the chassis and mounting 2 large rocket boosters to the back of its carapace. So great is the added thrust of these boosters, the large counterweights must be added to the Imperial Knight's legs to help it maintain its balance. A Knight Destrier can be armed with a Thunderstrike spear and a Chastiser Gatling cannon. The Knight Destrier's Ballitus pattern chassis is slightly shorter than the Questoris pattern, but still significantly larger than the Armigers assigned to lesser bondsmen. Knight Destrier are favoured by aggressive nobles who look for the cut-and-thrust brutality of melee combat, where they can rapidly seek out enemy behemoths and earn glory with a single rocket-boosted thrust of what is essentially a colossal power sword. A Knight Destrier can also be armed with a Reaper chainsword and a frag bombard. Knight Destriers make use of their exceptional agility to close with the enemy and engage face-to-face with devastating Thundershock spears and Baldermort-sized Reaper chainswords. The former are enormous rocket-assisted power lances, capable of punching through the heaviest armor, while the latter are versatile blades that can sweep entire infantry squads aside or grind through single tougher targets. The few surviving stragglers can hardly be considered lucky either, as they have only lasted long enough to get locked in the sights of the Knight Destrier's Chastiser Gatling cannon or frag bombard. Now, let's have a quick note on its weaponry. Yummy. A Chastiser Gatling cannon is a type of Imperial rapid-fire kinetic projectile weapon deployed as a standard weapon to the Knight Destrier. It is particularly effective against infantry, light vehicles, and even smaller structures. A Thundershock spear is a knight-sized power weapon wielded by the Knight Destrier. It is an enormous rocket-assisted power lance capable of punching through the heaviest armor. A frag bombard is a mobile artillery weapon used by Knight Destrier as a standard ranged weapon. It fires artillery shells that fragment upon impact into millions of deadly splinters. The Reaper chainsword is a massive chain weapon that is used by the combat walkers of the Questoris Imperialis, the Imperial Knights, and by the renegade knights of the Questor Traitores. At 3 times the height of a man and backed by the mighty servo motors of the Knight, the Reaper chainsword's adamantium teeth are capable of tearing through flesh and bone like parchment, and can power through the thickest of armor and ferrocrete. The roar of the weapon's revving teeth alone is enough to cause weaker enemies to flee in terror. Knights armed with a Reaper chainsword are capable of defeating monstrous Xenos in a single strike, and have been known to even tear into the legs of enemy titans, toppling them into broken ruin. End quote. Jolly, eh? Now, don't get me wrong. I adore the Questoris Pattern Knight chassis. From their initial images in White Dwarf, I thought they looked magnificent, even though they would seem rather silly by modern tastes. The hobby and model ranges have come on so much since then. The inexorable trudge of time. When they gained their first codex, in 8th edition if memory serves, they were fully formed at last, and the glorious larger knights in both Horus Heresy and 40k are too magnificent. But I always note that I am no expert on the households or titans that they support. I'm learning. I am more about the man in the trenches and in the drop pods on the bridge of the ship. My first love will always be the Marine and the Guardsman, Orc Boy or Elder Guardian. Weird, but true. Despite this, I am slowly building a knight household for my Horus Heresy battles. No prizes for what house I name them, because your own chapter, household, order, or organization is always closer and more personal to you. It is why I bemoan so many armies, even many of my own, being standard codex stuff, like the Blood Angels. Why did I choose them when I could have made my own? I really do need to dip the lot and work them up again in Blood Spears heraldry. Perhaps if 11th edition is more to my taste, I will drag out my armies and get this done. But the knights have always had a few wee issues. They cost a heck of a lot and do not always manage what their stature might portray. This is why I was so happy they brought out the Armigers. Laughably, the line equivalent for the knight households. Scrappy younger knights errant, or squires learning the ropes, or dedicated warriors who thrive on speed and maneuverability to get their results. Hence, I am elated to see the inclusion of this new midway point. The light Ballistus is the midpoint between a true Questoris Knight and the ranging Armiger or Helverin. This will not only add some much-needed choice and variety for the eye, for all of those modelers out there, but it should add far more tactical flexibility to the knight households in both points, purpose, and placement. Concerning the Destrier pattern itself, the silhouette I find excellent, the armament striking, and as a Blood Angel fan, I cannot but join the Blood Angels commander, the tactics YouTuber, in nodding appreciatively at the Thunder Shock Lance. Any Blood Angels player who remembers the Librarian Dreadnought will join me in this too. I like to think that this knight will be like the Wolverine of the team, a shorter, swifter scrapper who wants to get in close and punch his blades through the foe. Indeed, I invoke that most important of all rules, because to me, it looks amazingly cool. Now, as this is one of my first videos of this year, let's get on to my newest rampage. A new year and a new message from your Uncle Baldy. Let's talk about knights in-game, as an example. The vexation I sometimes feel when I cannot field the Knights of the Heresy in 40k is logical, but what does not make sense to me is why you cannot field those of 40k in the era of the Heresy. Surely, they had them all back then. I'm not an expert in the cult Mechanicum. We all know my dread of servitors, even if I do play the Mechanicum on the tabletop. Mechanicum, not Mechanicus, remember. Horus Heresy 2.0. I didn't make the translation to 3rd. It's simply not my cup of tea, and I hope those who play it adore it as much as they should. Yet the conundrum exists. The Age of Darkness, the period of heresy and civil war, directly ran on from the Great Crusade, humanity's second zenith, though far, far less pronounced than the Golden Age of technology. And the knights available should surely contain every make, model, or loadout. So what am I missing? Why can't we play some of the other knights tramping around in the far later era of the Imperium, eh? The Horus Heresy era should have had them all. So why the synthetic cutoff? If there is a lore reason I do not know, then do hit the comments. I'm always happy to deepen my knowledge and perspective. Am I just being peevish? But it touches on the silliness of Games Workshop, the short-sightedness and counterintuitive policy of one system for any model. Swathes of models remaining to multiple systems notwithstanding, I find it irksome and rather daft. Because if someone has one army that they can commute to other systems, then that, gentle listener, is a very nice gateway indeed. For example, I do like using my knights in 40k, but in 30k, now I've dabbled with playing them there, it's a cracking game, a different feel, a different aesthetic. I think I may just play that game too, and I feel I could do, with a Marine Legion or some Auxilia. It's akin to my head shaking about the codes at the back of codexes, unlocking app stats. Because when you use Battlescribe or other free army builders, you may just stray into making armies your opponent played, or looking at another army, salivating over this unit or that formation or character. Then you go down the route of getting that second army, or more. So I find it baffling that they close this stuff behind paywalls for short-termist cash hits. From my perspective, Games Workshop lack the bigger picture, or so it seems. Despite how I seem to be enticing others with the possibility of new armies, I do want to make a point today. I will request, just request, people take a long look at their pile of potential and start to realize it. For purchasing is often a stand-in for playing, painting, or constructing. I would suggest you do not fill those hobby holes with pure purchasing. It's just too easily done. The next time you're about to buy a box or figure, just take 1 second out to see if there's a club near you, or message a mate and offer his army a truly derogatory insult. Throw down the gauntlet for a match. Then go back to the shopping cart. Ask yourself, would you rather be buying more or organizing a painting session with the lads? because you can all have a tipple and talk bollocks while painting or making. It doesn't have to be done on your own. Is your bits box still on sprues? What about that project you always wanted to do? Could your tabletop-ready squads get that much-promised couple of processes or decals to spruce them up? Is your scenery up to snuff? Could you do with rereading some of the rules, maybe even write in the notes of your phone some lore you always wanted to staple down for your particular army? All I'm saying is, please consider your purchases. Do not tell yourself if you deserve it or not, because you probably do. But do you need it? None of us need new models. We like them, but we do not need them. Hobbying is great. Potential is amazing, but it's much better realized. Do you really need that new thing when you have so much to do? And if you did this, asked these questions, took that step, actually enjoyed the hobby instead of bankrupting yourself with new purchases pretending you may play one day, why not make that day today? Go play with your best friends. Make more friends. Life is about connections. Warhammer should always bring people together, not feed bunkering. You are never alone. Reach out. Be part of the community, not just the online commentariat. People are so much nicer in person. So go. Read, build, paint, plot, plan, and dream. Go. And play. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Flick me a super thanks if you are feeling bountiful. And most importantly of all, no matter what you do today, do make some time for fun. Toodaloo.